fascinating world. Specifically, we're focusing on our awesome autistic students. We're going to uncover why they do this, how it connects to their development, and most importantly, how we can actually transform those "oh no, not again" moments into valuable learning opportunities.
I love that.
So get ready to unlock the secrets of posting behavior.
I'm excited.
Me too. This is going to be fun. So what's so intriguing about posting is that it's not just random or like mischievous behavior.
Right.
There's actually a method to the madness.
There is. It's often a really powerful way for children to engage with their world, especially when language is still developing.
That makes sense.
So, imagine trying to communicate a need or explore a concept without actually having the words to do it.
Right.
Posting becomes a way to interact with the environment and exert a sense of control,
I see.
which can be incredibly important for kids who might feel overwhelmed by sensory input or social demands.
That's a really valuable way to look at it. Instead of just seeing it as a challenging behavior,
Yeah,
we can actually start to understand it as a form of communication
absolutely.
and a sign of a child's active engagement with what's around them.
Exactly.
Okay, so to really tap into that engagement, we need to understand the concept of play schemas.
Yes.
So can you give us like a crash course on play schemas and why they're so important in this context?
Absolutely. So play schemas are like these mental blueprints that guide how children play and make sense of the world. And when it comes to posting, two schemas are particularly relevant: the trajectory schema and the containing enveloping schema.
Okay, those sound a bit technical.
They do a little bit.
Can you break them down for us?
Yes, of course. So imagine a child who is completely absorbed in rolling a car down a ramp over and over and over again.
I could picture it.
That's the trajectory schema in action.
Okay.
They're fascinated by movement, by direction, by cause and effect. Every time that car rolls down, they're testing a hypothesis and they're gaining a deeper understanding of how the world works.
Ah, so it's like their own little physics experiment.
It is, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what about the containing enveloping schema?
So think about a child who loves to stuff toys into a box and then dump them out and then repeat the whole process endlessly.
Oh yeah, my kids do that all the time.
Right. That's them exploring the containing enveloping schema.
Okay.
They're figuring out boundaries, spatial relationships, and the concept of things existing even when they're out of sight.
So in essence, posting is like a hands-on way for kids to explore these like really fundamental concepts.
Yes.
They're using their senses and their bodies to figure out how things fit together, how things move, and how things disappear and reappear.
Precisely. And the beauty is that by understanding these schemas, we can actually design activities that tap into those natural drives and turn those posting urges into opportunities for learning and growth.
That's what I love about this approach. It's about working with the child's natural inclinations, not against them.
Absolutely. And it starts with our reactions.
Okay.
When we encounter posting behavior, it's crucial to respond calmly and neutrally.
Right.
Avoid any reaction that might inadvertently reinforce the behavior.
Okay.
If we get flustered and make a big deal out of retrieving a posted item, we might unintentionally make it more appealing.
So no frantic searches or dramatic pronouncements of where did it go.
Exactly. A simple matter-of-fact statement like, let's use the posting station instead, can work wonders.
I love that redirection. Not reprimanded. And speaking of posting stations, that sounds like a fantastic way to channel this behavior into like a designated space.
Yes.
What are some examples of posting stations we could set up in a busy classroom?
Get creative. Clear tubes with collection trays at the bottom are always a hit.
Oh yeah.
Kids can watch the items travel down and retrieve them easily. Posting boxes with different size slots are great for challenging fine motor skills and problem solving.
Makes sense.
And don't forget about those irresistible transparent containers.
Ooh, yeah, those are good.
They satisfy that curiosity about where things go
Yeah.
while also making it easy to retrieve those posted treasures.
I can already picture kids lining up to send things down those tubes.
Right.
It sounds like a perfect blend of sensory exploration and skill building.
Exactly. And remember, these stations should feel like play, not work.
Right.
And make them visually appealing, experiment with different placements, and most importantly, observe what captivates your students' attention.
That's such a key point. It's not about forcing a specific activity.
Right.
It's about observing what naturally fascinates each child.
Yes.
And then offering variations that tap into that fascination.
You got it. And sometimes even with the best designed posting stations, you might encounter a child who just can't resist those unauthorized posting zones.
Ah, yes, those adventurous explorers who always seem to find the most creative hiding spots. So what's our strategy for those moments?
Well, sometimes a little gentle redirection is all it takes, but there are also times when we need to consider temporary barriers, especially if safety or accessibility are concerns.
I'm all about teacher-friendly solutions. What are some practical options for creating those temporary barriers?
Think pool noodles, foam pipe insulation, or even clear plastic corner protectors.
Okay.
These are easy to install, remove, and blend in seamlessly with the classroom environment.
I love that. It's about creating a supportive environment without making it feel restrictive or institutionalized.
Exactly. Now, let's not forget that posting behavior isn't just about sensory exploration and schema play. It can also be a powerful springboard for communication development, even for our nonverbal students.
This is so important. I'm eager to hear how we can incorporate communication goals into these posting activities.
We can start by incorporating simple signs and symbols into our posting stations. Think about basic concepts like in, out, more, and finished. We can use visual aids like picture cards or even hand gestures to represent these words.
That makes so much sense. It's about creating a visual language that everyone can understand.
Precisely. And as children become more familiar with these symbols, we can start pairing them with spoken words, gradually building those connections between visual and auditory input.
So we're not just managing behavior, we're fostering communication and independence.
Exactly. It's about empowering these children to express themselves and engage with the world in meaningful ways. And now that we've laid a strong foundation, let's dive into how we can take these activities to the next level by harnessing the power of those schemas we talked about earlier.
Okay, I'm ready for more schema-powered strategies.
Right.
Let's unlock the full potential of those posting urges.
Let's do it. All right, so remember those kids who are just mesmerized by watching things move and disappear?
Oh, yeah.
Let's tap into that trajectory schema with some activities that really get things rolling.
Okay, I like it.
Ball runs are a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
They're not just fun.
Uh-huh.
They're also a fantastic way for kids to explore, like, gravity momentum and spatial relationships without even realizing they're learning.
Right. It's all about that sneaky learning.
Exactly. Sneak it in there.
So I can already hear the excited squeals as those balls zoom down the tracks. What are some other ways we can bring the trajectory schema to life?
Think about the simple joy of pouring.
Okay.
Water play with containers, funnels, tubes is endlessly fascinating for kids who are drawn to this schema.
Yeah, for sure.
They can experiment with different sizes and shapes, observing how the water flows and disappears and then magically reappears at the bottom.
It's like their own miniature waterfall.
It is.
And I bet we could even incorporate some of those angled posting tubes into the water play station.
Absolutely.
Oh, that'd be cool.
You can set those tubes up at different angles, and kids can watch how objects travel at different speeds and directions. It's a simple but powerful way to introduce concepts like gravity and incline.
Love it. I love how we can turn these like everyday materials into such engaging learning experiences.
Me too.
So now what about those kids who are all about sorting, organizing, containing?
Yes.
How can we harness that containing, enveloping schema to support their learning and development?
For these kids, it's all about creating opportunities to fill empty and categorize.
Oh,
Sorting boxes with different compartments are a great way to start.
yeah.
Kids can sort objects by color, shape, size. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Right.
And as they sort, they're developing categorization skills and visual discrimination.
It's amazing how those seemingly simple activities can actually be so powerful for cognitive development. What are some other activities that align with a containing enveloping schema?
Post-in boxes with varied shapes holes are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Kids have to match the shapes, which requires problem solving and spatial reasoning.
Makes sense.
And don't underestimate the allure of treasure baskets filled with containers of different sizes and textures.
Ooh, treasure baskets.
Kids can fill and empty those containers to their heart's content, reinforcing that concept of object permanence as they go.
So we've got those treasure baskets for the containing schema. We've got ball runs and water play for the trajectory schema. It sounds like we're building a whole toolkit of activities to turn those posting moments into opportunities for exploration and discovery.
Exactly. And as we observe each child's individual preferences, we can tailor those activities to meet their specific needs and interests.
Right.
Remember, it's not about forcing a child into a particular schema. It's about observing what naturally captivates their attention and then providing them with opportunities to explore those interests in a safe and supportive environment.
That's such a great point. It's all about individualization and meeting each child where they're at. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on one more important aspect of supporting students who engage in posting behavior, and that's collaborating with parents and caregivers.
Yes.
It's so essential to be on the same page and working together to create a consistent and supportive environment for these amazing kids.
You're absolutely right. It's a team effort, and open communication is key. Parents are often just as puzzled by this behavior as we are, and they might be feeling frustrated or even embarrassed.
It's so important to start these conversations with empathy and understanding. Instead of focusing on the problem behavior,
Yes.
let's shift the conversation to understanding the child's developmental needs and how we can work together to support those needs.
Exactly. We can explain the concept of schemas in a way that makes sense for parents, and we can share the strategies we're using in the classroom, encouraging them to try similar activities at home.
Yeah.
The more consistent we are in our approach, both at school and at home, the more likely we are to see positive changes.
That makes so much sense. It's all about working together to create that supportive and nurturing environment where these kids can thrive. And speaking of thriving, I'm feeling so much more confident and empowered after this deep dive.
Good.
I'm already brainstorming all sorts of posting stations and schema-based activities for my students.
That's fantastic. And remember, you don't have to do it all at once. Start small, experiment, and most importantly, have fun with it.
Yes.
This is about turning a potentially frustrating situation into a joyful journey of discovery for both you and your students.
I love that. A joyful journey of discovery. Now, before we go, is there one final takeaway you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Yes, remember that posting behavior is a window into a child's unique way of experiencing and understanding the world. Instead of seeing it as simply a problem to be solved, let's embrace it as an opportunity to connect with these amazing kids, tap into their natural curiosity, and foster their love of learning.
Beautifully said. So the next time you find yourself searching for a missing toy or puzzle piece, take a deep breath, channel your inner detective, and remember that it's not just about retrieving the object. It's about understanding the brilliant mind that placed it there and finding creative ways to nurture that brilliance.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Happy teaching everyone.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from understanding those fascinating place schemas to creating those awesome posting stations.
We have. And you've given our listeners so many great ideas for turning those posting moments into engaging learning experiences.
But before we wrap things up, I think it's important to emphasize one really crucial aspect of this whole process, and that's observation.
Absolutely. Observation is like the foundation of everything we've talked about today.
Right.
Before we can jump into any strategies or solutions,
Yeah.
we need to really take the time to observe and understand each child's unique posting behavior.
It's like putting on our detective hats, right?
Yeah.
We're gathering clues, trying to decipher the secret code behind those missing game pieces.
Exactly. What are they posting? Where are they posting it? When are they most likely to engage in this behavior? Is there a pattern to their choices?
Those are such great questions.
Ah,
And by carefully observing those details, we can start to understand the function of the behavior.
Yeah.
Are they seeking sensory input? Are they exploring spatial relationships? Are they trying to communicate a need?
Exactly. Once we have a clearer understanding of the why behind the behavior, then we can start to tailor our strategies to meet those individual needs. Let's say you have a student who is constantly posting tiny objects into those little gaps in the air conditioning vent.
Oh, I know that one. I've found more than a few missing crayons and puzzle pieces in those vents over the years.
So what might that tell us about this child's sensory preferences or the function of their behavior? Perhaps they're drawn to the visual stimulation of things disappearing into those tiny spaces, or maybe they enjoy the tactile feedback of pushing those objects into those narrow openings.
That makes sense. So how could we adapt a posting station to address those needs?
We could create a posting box with a similar size and shape to the air vent slots. Maybe we could even add some textured materials around the opening to provide that tactile feedback they seem to enjoy.
It's like we're creating a safe and appropriate outlet that meets the child's sensory needs while also redirecting them from those potentially problematic areas.
Exactly. And as we observe and experiment, we'll start to see patterns emerge. We'll get a better sense of what works and what doesn't for each individual child.
It's all about being responsive to those individual needs and preferences. There's no one-size-fits-all solution, but by being observant and creative, we can find strategies that make a real difference for our students.
That's the beauty of this work. We're constantly learning and adapting our approach, and we're helping these amazing kids thrive in the process.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of posting behavior, what's the most important message you want our listeners to take away?
If you're feeling overwhelmed by your students' posting behavior, remember, you're not alone. This is a common behavior, and there are definitely strategies and solutions out there. With a little creativity and a lot of heart, you can turn this challenging behavior into a source of joy and learning for both you and your students.
So beautifully said. Embrace those schemas, get creative with those posting stations, and most importantly, remember to observe and connect with those amazing, curious minds.
Happy teaching everyone.